All right, I made a box for my dust collector. Not my dust collector, but my dust collection system. And a while back I bought this 8-inch Grizzly joiner. And I put the dust collection back here on the back with 4 inches. And it does a good job there. But I kept noticing stuff falling out on the floor. And that really bugged me. And so what I did is I put a piece of plywood underneath here and covered that up. Put a little 2-inch port in the bottom, and my port was coming a little bit loose, and when I opened it all up, I found that crammed full of sawdust underneath in there. And so I thought, well, that's no good. And so I pulled this all off, and I put a piece of 1/2-inch plywood and cut a hole in there, and then of course glue that to the 1/4-inch plywood that's in the bottom of the sander. So having said that, I've got a hole up here that's basically 3 1/8, about 3 1/8 right up in here, and then it's 13 1/8. So I think it's 3 5/8 is the width of it. So anyway, so that's around my motor and all that good stuff that's down in there. And I've got just not very much room on the sides for stuff to collect. But we'll see if that doesn't drain it out. But even with just this on here, it was all filling up in there and going on the floor, which was driving me crazy. Anyway, well, it wasn't driving me crazy, but I just thought, So anyway, last night I made this little device. And of course it's box jointed, and this box fits up in that hole you just got through seeing. And then these boxes here have screws in them right here on the bottom that screw up into the bottom of that 1/2-inch plywood. And then I put a tapered board in there so that the sawdust will taper down to the bottom, and then the flange will suck it out. And that's the flange that I had on the other one on the bottom. But anyway, I thought, well, okay, I need something that's going to allow the dust to drop when it's planing. And so we're going to see how this works and that kind of deal. But anyway, I'm going to let that glue up there solid, so we'll see how she does there. Down here on the screws that come through there, I put super glue on them. That's a DAP 30-minute glue. Then, of course, I glued these slides in there on the back side of it, and glued these in. I need to probably put a couple of screws in there just to reinforce that, and that kind of deal. Of course, it's glued on there pretty hard, so should be good. And if you look at that, I pulled that out of my scrap bin. It's got a nice little curve in it, but I did plane that edge, so it's a little piece of walnut and box jointed, and there's the flange. So that's going to go back up in there, and hopefully that will collect the dust and have it fall down in there. So here we go. So between the two, I have the 2-inch and the 4-inch that go in there. So I'm sitting looking at that, and that's just a piece of glue. Thought it was cracked. Okay. So there we go. I did end up sanding this edge off right here, just so that I wasn't losing all my vacuum out through the edges of that, because that's like a floor sweep. And so I just sanded them flat and flush to get a little bit better, around it. So anyway, we'll see how she does. All right, she's up in there. There's some screws down in there. Fits in the hole there nice and tight. Of course, I use my jack to hold it up. There's a third hand. So, here we go. And that's down low enough to where I can see to plug it in. The other one was up in there, and I just had to kind of find it. This one's low enough to get to it. Alright, it's revision 2.
I had to put a drop in my dust collection underneath because it was packing in around the motor. So I basically made this box that's about 3.5 inches wide by 13 inches long. It's about an inch, maybe a half inch from the edge of that box on the joiner in here, and well, it also fits inside that, so inside that hole there. So anyway, it's got we'll see how it works and see how it does for collecting that and keeping that. I'm sure that motor's enclosed, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I do want to get that dust out of there and keep it from falling on the floor. There it is. It's got the 4-inch on the back. It gets most of it, and then that gets that on the bottom. So that's an update to Stomp, keeping the Grizzly's 8-inch stuff from going all over the ground.